A very good morning. Welcome from that discussion on inroads and how science is moving. That was with Priscilla. Now, we are undertaking our own exegesis into the report that was outed yesterday by the probe committee into National Social Security Fund. The recommendations that were made are a staggering 28, including the fact that the Minister for Labour, Gender Labour and Social Development, Honourable Betty Amongi, resigns with immediate effect. The Minister didn't waste any time in responding. She says she is going nowhere. That remains to be seen, and who exactly is now supposed to ensure that these recommendations are, first of all, considered or even put into place. Joining me this morning for this discussion is Honourable Karim Masaba, the Member of Parliament for Industrial Division in Mbale City. We are also expecting the Chairman General of the National Organization of Trade Unions, Asha Wilson Owere, whose knowledge of the workings within National Social Security Fund also came into the spotlight as the probe got underway just over a month ago. We shall be hoping he joins us a little bit later. But let me come to the Honourable Masaba. A very warm welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all the viewers out there.
The recommendations that have been outed by the probe committee are staggering, 28. And when you take a close look, of course, the top, or the one that makes a lot of noise, is that the minister must resign with immediate effect. First and foremost, what do you make of the report itself in light of the fact that you have knowledge of the workings of the members that came up with this particular report? What's your take, or what did you think when you read these recommendations at first?
Thank you very much, and to begin with, I completely associate myself with these recommendations because I was part of the team that drafted them, and we came to consensus on all these recommendations, and we were all being patriotic and looking at how best we can guarantee the safety of the money for our people out there. What can we do? What legacy are we going to leave behind to protect our people's money? And when we were doing this report, we did not winch at anyone. We were trying to be very objective. We wanted all the facts to come out, and we tried to bring out as much as we could bring out in our report. And it's quite a big report because the report alone with the appendices is over 500 pages, and we had about 3 weeks to conclude this because they needed it on the floor of Parliament within a month's time, and we made sure that we hit these deadlines. So we worked day and night to try our best to bring out the facts to the best of our abilities, and the recommendations are quite big, but we try to compress them because we found out a lot was happening in NSSF. Yeah. A lot has been going on, and we dug deeper into the past regimes as well, the three regimes.
We noticed you have something about Onegi Obel, and also the former gender minister, Zoe Bakoru.
Yes, because we believe to get to understand how NSSF is running, we needed to dig deeper and based on the past information to compare and see how things are happening now. Because when you look at things like performance, we needed to get the figures before the current management came in. How has the fund grown? What has been happening? So that is why we dug deeper into the operations of the NSSF. But when you look at our recommendations, many of them we actually are requesting for more investigation.
More investigations.
And audits. For example, when you look at the one talking about the suspense account, this is an account which actually the owners of this money is not known. And this money is being used. We noticed.
How much is that?
The money is over about 57 billion. 57 billion is out there. But perhaps in the submission of the employers, they missed out one or two things. And these monies are
the
not
money
accounted
can't
for.
be
Yes, the owners of this money can't be tracked. And they provided us with bank statements and all that, but these are millions of statements because the NSSF has millions of savers. That's and right. There's no way we could track down, or we could try.
It could take a long while.
Yes, that is why we recommended for the Auditor General to do a forensic audit on this account, because you'll find that management is using part of this money to do their errands, to do their day-to-day activities, which we believe it's quite wrong, because this is savers' money.
All right, let's use this opportunity, your appearance here on Morning at NTV, to go through each recommendation and see exactly where we are. Let's begin with the one that is making the most noise, the resignation with immediate effect of the minister, and for the president to take keen interest in her conduct.
When you look at that recommendation, we considered it actually the most important recommendation, because this is the minister directly responsible who was in charge. Because there are two ministers responsible, the one responsible for finance and gender. But with the amendment of the NSSF Act, it gives more powers to the Minister of Gender, who even approves the budgets and the daily running and appointments and all that. So when you look at our findings, we got to know, or we got to bring out the fact that we believe the minister abused the office, her office, there's abuse of office.
Specifically by doing?
When you look at the details, it's quite a lot, but I'll give you an example of the 6 billion that was making headlines, because we wanted to find out where exactly was the problem. And our conclusion as a committee, according to the facts that were provided with, the Minister of Gender wanted this money to come to her ministry. She wanted 6 billion of savers' money to do the daily activities of the Ministry of Gender, which is wrong. Yes, the NSSF Act gives her the power, the power to pass the budget. She could pass it with amendments, or the way it has come out, or the way it has been brought to her. She could amend as she deems fit. But this does not give her permission to send money to her ministry. We all know that the Public Finance Management Act is very clear. The money for the Ministry of Gender is supposed to come from the Consolidated Fund. Parliament is supposed to appropriate that money, not touching savers' money, because when you look at the activities, looking for more savers, technology and all that, these are activities that claim to have, that were going to be done by the Ministry of Gender. So this was wrong. Okay. When you look, when you look at like the one of the social corporate responsibility, the 1.8 billion, the minister was getting money directly, 250 million. Going to the Ministry of Gender according to how they were dividing or sharing this money. The board chairman, 250 million. The trade organizations, 400 each.
Okay. Daily monitors Elizabeth Kamurungi and Tabu Butagira have already afforded us a quote from the minister in response to this particular recommendation. And I'll read it verbatim. "I will not resign. How can I resign when I unearthed the road at NSSF, and the work the committee has done confirms what I have long been saying. There has been mismanagement at NSSF for 10 years. The minister is effectively telling you, the probe committee, you're indicting her for unearthing the road." This is more like we are now, it's a case of you against her.
What you're quoting is something I've not got to look at. And
these are journalists.
I've not seen the
they've
minister,
called her and she said she will not resign.
We've not seen the minister present or come back and submit to the floor of parliament. So we are waiting, because we expect to have a wider debate today. So perhaps she'll come out and clarify on some of these issues. And the House will take stand on what exactly
on this. All right. Yes. Recommendation number 2 is to dissolve NSSF board that is chaired by Peter Chimbowa. That one, we shall, of course, wait for that to happen. I would like to go to recommendation number 3. Revert fund supervision to finance, which will appoint, finance being the ministry, which will appoint the managing director and the deputy, but retain appointment of board members with the gender and labor ministry. How is this going to work?
This, we look at the Ministry of Finance being able or having the capacity to manage such a huge fund. We did case studies. We tried to compare with different countries like Kenya and how they are doing it, because Kenya has a fund of over 57 trillion, which is bigger than ours here. So we wanted to compare and find out how things are happening. When you look at the Ministry of Gender, they have the technical staff who can manage issues concerning labor issues and how management can run on, for example, the appointments on board from labor unions. These are issues that are labor related, but not issues concerning investment. So the challenge with the NSSF amendment was that it gave the Minister of Gender powers to pass and approve these budgets of the NSSF. And budgets of NSSF include money that is going into investment. So this is, there is conflict of interest, conflict of power. Perhaps because now there is going to take time to make decisions, because the ministry responsible for finance is well knowledgeable with the investment decision. So this has, according to our findings, we've seen the Minister of Gender coming, stopping some of the investment projects. We've seen the Minister of Gender, responsible for gender, directing on how investment should be done. For example, the Grain Council. This is something which didn't have a feasibility study. This is something which is new, that needed more time, perhaps more technical people to interview and bring out facts before savers funds are invested into it. But we're seeing the Minister of Gender coming out pushing for it. So we are now trying to block the Minister of Gender to do anything concerning funds, investment and passing of budgets to do with the running. But we are leaving her with the mandate or the sole responsibility of appointing the board, because the board is composed by members from trade unions, which we believe
so you are effectively suggesting that the minister remains a quasi-actor in this whole arrangement.
We are suggesting that the minister will appoint a board, the board of NSSF, but the top management is appointed by finance. So still, there is dual supervision, but we're just streamlining it. And we know this will create checks and balances.
And different power centers.
Yes, different power centers. A board that is has been appointed by the Minister of Gender. We believe it cannot connive with the MD or Deputy MD who have been brought by the Minister of Finance. So we believe there could be checks and balances. Yes.
Believing is... All right, let's look at recommendation number 3. Ex-Managing Director Richard Byarugaba, his then Deputy and now acting successor Patrick Ayota, a Chief Finance Officer Stephen Mwanje, and the Marketing and Corporate Affairs Head Barbara Arimi step aside, and the IGG investigate them for abuse of office, corruption and conspiracy to commit a felony in relation to 1.8 billion Uganda shillings given to line minister, board members and workers groups for corporate and social responsibility. That recommendation is very clear. Number 4, IGG investigates the view of prosecution of ex-MD Byarugaba and 5 others for involvement in conceptualization, procurement and installation of geomapping systems, which led to a loss of 749. That is clear. A prosecution of all NSSF board members and staff involved in the creation of Victoria Property Development Limited for abuse of office and causing financial loss of up to 7.2 billion Uganda shillings. Prosecution of board members. Talk about that.
Yes, as Parliament, we cannot prosecute. That is why we are still recommending for more investigation and then a prosecution. Because when you look at this actually we believe it was fraud and things were not done right. Because when you look at this Victoria, this was a project concerning Lubowa. Yeah. They were supposed to build 18 model houses that were at the start of the project, and they got in touch with an Israel firm, and they set up a special purpose vehicle that was going to build these houses, and they invested in money. But this was done wrongly. So after investing in money, they come back to government and consult, and then they were told by the Solicitor General that what they were doing was wrong. So what they do is now they backtrack, because NSSF didn't want to deal with the developers directly. They had done a special purpose vehicle. So what they had done was literally wrong. So after they backtracked and wrote off that money. So we believe everything was done wrongly. So we need these people to be held accountable. We need them to be investigated, perhaps prosecuted by the DPP. And the IGG needs to follow up on this matter as well. All
right. And the Ombudsman conducts a lifestyle audit on Mr. Byarugaba, Patrick Ayota, and all fund executives. a lifestyle audit in Uganda is something that I personally feel is a little bit of a long shot when you're trying to find people's faults with regard to clandestine dealings or even theft and corruption for that matter. Just take us through what the specifics are. How is this possible in a nation where people can, of course, launder and keep money undercover?
Yes, this is something which we believe could be done, because we've seen it being done in several cases. We've seen, for example, I'll give you an example of the former PS Kazinda. I think you remember that case, and the wealth that he had amassed compared to what he was earning, and how that issue was handled. Some of the assets were frozen. So this is something we believe it could be done. We could compare their income vis-a-vis what they have amassed during this time, because most of these assets, we believe, if they were bought during this time, perhaps then there could be a correlation, but if they were not, then perhaps that is something else. But it's a long shot, but we believe it's best if we do, because a lot of money is missing, and perhaps an audit on their lifestyle and their net worth could perhaps give us a bigger picture.
A bigger picture.
Yes.
All right. The way we are tackling this particular aspect is to see recommendation after recommendation and then be able to dig to understand exactly what can happen. So when we miss out or seem to underplay one recommendation, please do not feel offended. There are things that we need to unearth too as we do this particular exercise. Workers groups, National Organization of Trade Unions and the Central Organization for Free Trade Unions refund 806 million illegally received from the fund or face a prosecution. Do your findings constitute sufficient evidence for people to be prosecuted?
Yes, actually we involved very many agencies. We didn't only do it as MPs. When you look at, for example, that money we are talking of to be refunded, we had an interaction with these trade unions, and some of them denied these monies. But again, we used the Financial Intelligence Authority to get more detail, and they provided us with all the evidence. They brought the details of the money that was being dispersed from the NSSF to these accounts. So we have clear evidence from other government agencies that were helping in this investigation. So we got to see that this money was being dispersed wrongly. There was nothing like an MOU that had been signed, that had been cleared by the Attorney General. So we believe they were receiving this money illegally, and we need this money to come back, because this is savers' money. It should be refunded back in after 7 days from the adoption of the report.
Okay. Recommendation number 9, board terminates services of Geoffrey Sajabi, the head of business, with immediate effect over nepotism claims. Board terminates, this is another recommendation, the services of the fund's chief finance officer, Stephen Zmwanje, appointed when not a member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants as required by law, and the Directorate of Public Prosecution prosecute him for working without a professional practicing license. This recommendation, well, is pretty clear. I hope that happens the way you want it. Now, there is NSSF building houses affordable to savers, since only 3 out of the 300 Lubowa luxury units that cost between 800 million to 3 billion have been occupied. This is a project that is as controversial as it is necessary. But for savers to be able to afford at 800 million Uganda shillings, I can assure you Chris Higenyi cannot afford a house that has been provided for him by NSSF. Yes,
Chris Higenyi, not only you, even me, Masaba Karim, as a member of parliament, I cannot afford any of these NSSF houses.
So what was the rationale in your probe? What did you understand or get to reveal? What was the rationale for this whole housing project?
Yes, according to the explanation that were given, is that they were looking at profit, that these high-end houses could have more returns on investment, given that this is a prime area. Lubowa is a prime area. But again, you're looking way beyond what an average Ugandan can afford, and this, we believe it could be something that could be benefiting majorly the savers. So in our investigation, we noted that many of the savers cannot afford, I believe not even 1% can afford to buy any of these houses. So that is why you see that only 3 houses have been bought, and the 3 houses that have been bought haven't been paid fully. Actually, people have made the deposits and they have not yet occupied them. So I believe if as a member of the committee and my colleagues on the committee, we believe if NSSF can construct the low-cost houses, these are for the average Ugandans, because we all know how much average Ugandans earn and what they can afford.
So basically, this is a miscalculation at a strategic level decision making.
Yes,
because one would say, if you're looking at making money for savers, at the end of the year, you provide an interest.
Yes.
So if we are looking at condominium that are as pricey as that, then there is a market for that particular.
Yes, there is a market.
And when they are occupied, the money shall come forth, and then the saver who can't afford that house can get the dividends in terms of interest. Isn't that rational enough?
No, when you look at the money that has been invested and how long it could take to sell these houses, it could take about 10 years plus to sell these houses. We are all still wondering how long it will take. So we are not certain how long it will take. But if these houses were worth 100 million, then we know very many Ugandans out there perhaps could get mortgage, perhaps could pay in installments for these houses. If a house was worth 50 million Mzigo, maybe an NSSF saver would buy this house. Yes, he would be able to buy, because he would know how much he's saving. And so we believe this is quite numerous. And the other thing we noted is that these projects are centered majorly around Kampala, within the city center, which we believe should be going out there. People in Mbale should be able to benefit from NSSF. In Mbarara, they should be able to benefit, because we've seen chunks of land in different parts of the country which are lying idle, they are not being developed. So perhaps they would set out and construct houses here as well, because they claim the land in Lubowa is quite expensive. That is why the prices are high. So if you built perhaps an estate in Mbale or Mbarara, it would be way cheaper, and maybe a saver
estates in Butaleja.
Yes, in Butaleja as well. So this is something we need to spread out, to be spread out in the entire country, and we need low-cost houses, because this is something that is being done in Kenya, and many people are benefiting from it.
Okay. The IGG investigates 13 individuals, including the former fund deputy managing director Geraldine Sally, involved in the flopped smart card project. Shouldn't this lady be late to do her other work? She had her time in court and things were settled. You're opening old wounds. No,
what we're looking at is something fresh. She went to court concerning her being sent away illegally from the board, because she was the deputy MD and she went on to maternity leave. On her return, the chairman of the board then told her to go back on leave, which she declined, that she was being pushed away, so she ran to court. So this was the issue that was in court, and court awarded her 200 million shillings. But we were surprised NSSF decided to settle for 1 billion to be compensated to her. So that is a different issue. So the issue we're looking at concerns the smart card project, which is about over 2 billion shillings. A team was sent to India, that they wanted a card that savers could use to check their balances. Yes, that this card had the name and the number of the saver, and the saver could go
balance
to
you can check with an SMS.
With an SMS. And some machines we were told that some machines were brought, but this project was never spread out of the country. So we were wondering where did they go, and we were told that this project was written off. So perhaps someone connived with someone to find a way of siphoning savers' money. So we are recommending at least for
that project be revisited.
Yes, they need to be revisited, and we need this money recovered if possible.
Okay, just for clarity purposes, let me take you back a little. You said court decided that Geraldine Namirembe, rather Sally, receives 200 million Uganda shillings, but NSSF dished out $1 billion.
Yes. When that was the High Court miscellaneous case, I think I'm not certain of the number, because we looked at it as well. Court ruled in her favor and awarded her costs of 200 million. 200 million. 200 million, yes. So after awarding her, what NSSF decided was to go and appeal against these costs. They went back and they were appealing that it was not done fairly and all that. So after appealing, the court, the case started, the process started. So when it started, now NSSF, some years later, I believe maybe they saw that they were going to lose the case. I don't know the circumstances.
They settled for an out of court.
Yes, they decided that let's settle out of court. And when they decided to settle out of court, they said, we are offering you 700 million to settle out of court. And then she declined that figure, so they reached an agreement that they would compensate 1 billion.
Right.
Why did you decide to go back to court? Why didn't you at least pay the 200 million and handle that issue? So when you look at the 200 million plus the accumulated interest at a rate of court rate of 6%, still would be paying way much less than that. Yes. So that is an issue that we are against. That is savers' money. That
interesting revelation there. All right, COF to recall Sam Lyomoki and Penina Tukamwesiga as its representative to NSSF. This is, of course, the controversial MP and the official. I think that's pretty clear. 9 board members refund 624 million payout to 2 of their colleagues, Fred Bamwesige and Julius Bahemuka, who resigned. All right. Auditor General to conduct a value for money audit on Lubawa Housing Project, the under construction NSSF pension towers, particularly the contract variation and the fund's land on Yusuf Lule Road and in Temangalo in Kampala, Wakiso, respectively. That's clear too. However, there is something that I see that needs a little bit more attention. Contract variation. Explain that, especially the NSSF pension towers issue.
When you look at the initial contract, the money that was supposed to be used to construct this project, the contract later came on because it was, I think, a Chinese firm claiming that now their government has stopped pre-financing some of these projects and they had to alter and the agreements, and now they had to use upfront cash. So when you look at this scenario, now they bring the cost much higher. But according to the law, there is it gives them about 5% variation. So it was done legally. The variation was done legally. So what we're recommending for is an audit to confirm whether the variation was right or not, because it was covered under
there's a possibility that
yes, there's a possibility that it could have been way beyond, because once I'm given the alternative that I can vary my cost between this percentage, I could vary it knowing that I should not exceed that limit. But when that variation is actually not right, so we are recommending for an audit on that variation.
All right, another recommendation, the Auditor General to conduct forensic audit into transactions over the past 5 years of the fund's 57 billion shillings suspense account. Ugandans want to understand these suspense accounts. You hinted on it in the beginning, but please do a lot more justice to the savers and explain 57 billion Uganda shillings is contained in suspense accounts.
Yes, so what happens is, say for example I work for a certain bank A, and then that bank remits my 10%, but with an error in my details, perhaps it does not capture my number, my NSSF savers number well, or my names well, or perhaps I'm not registered with NSSF, but my employer submits or forwards that money to NSSF. They have that suspense account where all that money is collected. So you could be out there when you don't know that actually your employer is remitting for you money, or they are remitting your money but it's not getting to your account, because we received numerous messages and calls from people claiming I've been working but my money is not there. So this money accumulates on one account, a suspense account. Yes, which is managed by NSSF. So they claim once the saver comes out and tries to verify their details, then this money is transferred from their account, from the suspense account to their account. So this is about 57 billion. We need an audit on this money because we believe there is a loophole for this money being stolen. I think you'll read somewhere where management took 4 of their staff out to study. And they paid them 200 million shillings to go and study. I think it was for a conference to do a short something like that for about 4 days in Tanzania. So they took people out and they got money from the suspense account, about 200 million, which is wrong because this money now belongs to savers, yes, who have not yet been identified. So we believe that this suspense account is being misused. And we saw a decline in the figures from the suspense account. They cleared off it could be about 20 billion, which was cleared off the suspense account in the previous 1 to 2 years, claiming the owners of this money had now been found and come out. But then how do you get the owners of this money within that short period of time? So we believe money is being used from the suspense account and then later on cleared or written off. Yes, so this is creating a loophole, and we need an audit on all this money, and we want to find out where has this money been going, how has it been leaving the suspense account.
All right, 57 billion Uganda shillings is a whole lot of money, and of course it will be important to understand exactly where that money is. You've also recommended a lifestyle audit of the fund's compliance stuff. I think this is pretty clear. You also want the 610 million Uganda shillings that paid in 10% contributions for 24 NSSF board members be refunded within 7 working days from adoption of this report. When do you think the report will be adopted?
We believe it should be adopted today, because we expect debate today at 2 p.m. It should be the first thing. So as soon as it's adopted, then those recommendations should come into effect. All right.
Now, there is this particular recommendation on an issue that concerns a 24 billion Uganda shillings loan to Uganda Clays. You, the probe, say this should secure and enforce recovery of that money. Tell us about this loan to Uganda Clays, a little bit more detail.
When you look at this money, it was given to Uganda Clays, I believe, around 2010, about 11 billion that was given, unsecured loan.
Unsecured loan.
Which
NSSF
is quite...
doesn't issue
NSSF
unsecured.
does not lend money. Yeah. That is wrong. And giving out an unsecured loan, that is wrong. There is no way I would go to a commercial bank or a lender and they give me 11 billion without security. That is quite wrong. That is not there. I've not seen it ideally. It's the first time I'm getting to see it. So that money was given to them. Then it started accumulating interest, and the interest became part of the principal. That is why it's over 20 billion. And in 2016, they put a halt to the interest accumulating. Yeah. Then we are seeing in the financial 2022, the one we last audited, this money was being written off. They were creating an allocation for it to be written off. So they wanted now to write off this money to go as a loss. But again, why would you lend Uganda Clays, yet you know that it has been making losses over the years?
So under what arrangement was money lent to the Uganda Clays company?
Yes, they claim to have been patriotic, claiming NSSF was trying to do a bailout, which is wrong, which is the responsibility of government. Since when did NSSF begin doing bailout? So they claim they were trying to save this dying company, which yes, if they were saving, it could be right, but the way it was done was wrong. So we are recommending for this money to be recovered, because Uganda Clay still exists and it still has assets and liabilities. So we believe once this money is brought and the NSSF management puts measures to recover this money, because we were told they were trying to secure it. They were trying to find a way of getting security from Uganda Clays. We believe this should be fast-tracked. This money shouldn't go to waste. This money should be recovered. It's quite a lot, and the savers' money should be brought back.
All right, the recommendations are 28. I believe we've handled at least 20, and of course that is as a result of my own analysis of what we ought to give a little bit more attention to. The rest are more like you're directing other bodies to conduct investigations. But let me come to a general discussion when it comes to the government agencies and any other body as we close the conversation. Do we need a probe into some of these other agencies? Uganda Revenue Authority finds itself in a spot of bother. The president the other day was talking of people or elements within URA that need to be checked. Do you think fundamentally that an audit or a probe into the workings of many of these agencies would be something that could or rather should take up the MP's time this year?
Yeah, when you look at this issue of NSSF, we actually thought things were moving quite well. Literally before this scandal started, we thought everything was
a stellar story of success.
Yes, this is perhaps an example of what is happening in the country, and we believe a lot could be going on. So as Parliament, I believe it's time we did more, we need to do more. But then we cannot initiate these processes because sometimes we don't know what exactly is happening. When you look at, for example, URA, because I'm a member of the Finance Committee and we do deal with URA, but what we're provided is what they want us to see. And we don't have the time and the information to dig deeper. But if we can get much more information, if we can have more of these kinds of probe, then I believe there is a lot happening there that needs to come out, and we need to put things right in this country.
Honorable Karim Masaba, Member of Parliament for the Industrial Division in the Male City, many thanks for gracing the show and helping us understand the detail of the recommendations in there that require the reforms that are maybe much needed at the National Social Security
Fund. Just briefly perhaps, we do appreciate what the management has been doing. Yes, because the fund has grown, though there are things that didn't go right, but at least we did appreciate that the fund has grown up to 17 trillion, which is quite good, but we believe it could have grown much more than that.
Thank you very much. That will do it for this Kickstarter discussion. Get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor, and on page 4 and 5 you can get the detail of the recommendations by the probe committee into what should happen next at the National Social Security Fund. I'm Chris Higenyi. Priscilla.
Chris Higenyi is had this morning, and we want to have a continuation of that. We want to have a conversation with Asha Wilson Owere, who's the Chairperson General, National Organization of Trade Unions. And of course, there's some recommendations in there concerning them directly. We do have Stephen Bide, who is on ground, and he is with Mr. Asha Wilson Owere to hear his side of defense in regards to the recommendations. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Yes, good morning to you once again, Priscilla. You know, one of the recommendations from this selective committee report is that NOTU has to refund the money that was dispersed to it, but also, if not, they are supposed to be prosecuted. I want to understand from Mr. Wede, is NOTU ready to refund the money, but also, are you ready for prosecution for the recommendation of the committee?
First of all, I want to thank the Select Committee of Parliament, because this whole saga, when it started, I actually told the minister to resign, because I saw the maneuvers, I saw what was happening, and I saw what she was trying to do. And I told her, let her resign and leave the workers' docket alone, because she has messed up in many places. Now, the issue of report, first of all, I want to thank the committee. This time around, the Parliament is on track. And we workers, we are watching. The issue of NOTU involvement, you know, NOTU has got the Secretary General, who is the accounting officer, and who was also on the board of NSSF. And we had disagreed on many things, on the issue of how the issue of accountability and so on. So the issue of anybody who is found the culprit should be answerable, because this is the workers' money. And I've been saying this, it's not the first time, and this is not about NOTU or any other organization. The people who are responsible, who are given responsibility to be in charge of workers' money, must be answerable. And when I came out and I talked about minister trying to get 6 billion, and I had the facts, a board member also asking for 1 billion, that kind of maneuver was actually, I'm the one who came out. And I even told the media, and I came out openly, and I told the world.
Great, but now the report indicates that it's NOTU that is supposed to refund the money or be prosecuted. And there's someone, when they say prosecution, it means someone has to go before the dock. I want to understand from you, as the Chairman General of NOTU, what is NOTU's position here? Because are you going? I want to understand. Are you going to be able to refund the money that is talked about here, or are you going to be ready to go the legal way?
If it is found that the Secretary General, who is accounting officer, got the money from NSSF, which I know he got, he must be liable and must be answerable. Because in the report, even his name and the other names of the other members have surfaced, and those names must be answerable. So these are individual issues, because if you are involving NOTU, did you get the whole organization or the organ to accept that? It's like what is happening in Koftu, where an individual was acting on behalf of the organization. So he must carry his own cross. So this is where the things are going to be. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Chairman General Asha Wilson Owele, the Chairman General of National Organization of Trade Unions. For now, we'll take you back to Priscilla Regina and Aroga in the studios, and we shall be following up this story, because today we expect the debate from Parliament of Uganda over this report that was tabled yesterday.
Well, thank you so much, Stephen Bide. Now, Mr. Owed,